The brilliant azure shields of the last Celestine Federation cruiser flickered and died as 3 more Arcosian missiles found their mark. Admiral Virkel gripped his command chair, silver skin paling as damage reports flooded in. "We've lost engines 3 and 4, weapons at 17% capacity." His second-in-command's voice trembled. Through the view screen, Virkel watched his once proud defense fleet reduced to scattered debris fields. The Celestine vessels, elegant, crystalline structures that had once been the pride of their peaceful civilization, now drifted as broken husks against the stark backdrop of space. Each explosion sent a psychic ripple through the Admiral's mind. Celestines shared a mild telepathic bond with one another, and he felt each death like a distant cry. The Arcosian fleet moved with unnatural precision. Their ships, black, angular vessels covered in biomechanical carapaces mirroring their insectoid creators, maintained perfect formation as they systematically eliminated the remaining Celestine resistance. Their coordinated movements betrayed the hive mind tactical network that made the Arcosians such formidable opponents. "Status of planetary defenses," Virkel asked, already knowing the answer. Communications officer Selmora shook her head, the luminescent patterns on her skin dimming with despair. "The orbital platforms have fallen. Ground-based shields will only hold for hours, not days." The bridge fell silent. 3 years of conflict had come to this inevitable conclusion. The Celestines, with their focus on art, science, and peaceful exploration, had never developed the military technology to withstand the Arcosian armada. Their homeworld, Celestis Prime, with its floating crystal cities and vast knowledge archives spanning 20,000 years of history, would soon fall to invaders who valued it only for its mineral wealth. Virkel rose from his command chair. His tall, slender frame stood in stark contrast to the chaos displayed on the view screens surrounding the bridge. "Prepare the surrender protocols. Priority 1 is civilian evacuation." His crew looked at him with a mixture of relief and shame. Surrender meant survival, but it also meant the end of everything they had known. Transmitting surrender code in 30 seconds, Selmora confirmed, her fingers hovering over the communication array. The tactical officer's console suddenly erupted with urgent alerts. "Sir," unknown signature emerging from the Crimson Nebula. All eyes turned to the main view screen as a vessel unlike any they had encountered materialized from the swirling red gases at the edge of the battlefield. It moved with startling speed, its design neither following the crystalline aesthetics of Celestine engineering, nor the biomechanical efficiency of Arcosian vessels. The ship was sleek yet sturdy, with what appeared to be massive engines at its stern and an array of unfamiliar weapon systems along its hull. "Is it responding to our distress call?" asked the bewildered second-in-command. Selmora frowned at her readings. "It's broadcasting an identification signal, but it doesn't match any known species in our database." The view screen magnified the approaching vessel, revealing strange markings along its hull. Symbols in an unfamiliar script, most prominent among them, "Uns Dauntless." "Hold the surrender transmission," Virkel ordered, a fragile spark of hope kindling despite his better judgment. The mysterious ship accelerated directly toward the heart of the Arcosian formation, seemingly oblivious to the overwhelming odds it faced. Either its crew was recklessly brave or completely unaware of the Arcosian armada's lethal reputation. "They're hailing us," Selmora announced, her voice rising in pitch. "And the Arcosians, too." Open broadcast. The view screen shifted to reveal a face that none of the Celestines had ever seen before, a species unknown to their extensive xenobiological records. The being had no luminescent patterns, no exoskeleton, no obvious telepathic nodes, just smooth skin, bilateral symmetry, and eyes filled with a determination that required no translation. "This is Captain Eliza Chen of the United Nations Space Command Vessel Dauntless," the alien announced. "We appear to have stumbled upon a situation that requires immediate attention." Captain Eliza Chen tapped her fingers rhythmically against her command console as the alien battlefield expanded across her view screen. The Dauntless had only emerged from the nebula for routine sensor calibrations. No one had expected to find an interstellar war in progress. Tactical assessment, Lieutenant Ramirez. The young officer's eyes flickered between holographic displays, his fingers dancing across the neural interface pads. Two distinct factions, Captain. The losing side appears to be down to their last capital ship. The aggressors outnumber them 7-1. Chen nodded, studying the battle with practiced eyes. Earth's United Nations Space Command had only recently developed long-range exploratory vessels. The Dauntless was among the first human ships to venture beyond the solar system's immediate neighbors. Their discovery of the Crimson Nebula should have been a simple scientific milestone, not a potential diplomatic incident. Life signs on the defending vessel, she asked. Approximately 400, Captain. Their biosignatures are unlike anything in our database. Definitely not human. Ramirez enlarged a scan of the elegant crystalline ship. Their technology is impressive, but their weapons systems seem almost rudimentary compared to their other capabilities. Commander Jackson, the ship's XO, leaned closer to Chen. Captain, I should remind you that our mission parameters explicitly forbid first contact scenarios without prior approval from UNSC High Command. Humanity's entrance into the galactic community is still tenuous at best. Chen's expression remained impassive, but her eyes narrowed slightly. Interfering would violate at least 6 diplomatic protocols established after Earth's disastrous first attempts at interstellar relations. The quarantine restrictions placed on human vessels were still in effect. Technically, the Dauntless should withdraw immediately and report the conflict. Dr. Okafor, what can you tell me about these species? Chen asked the xenobiologist. The scientist studied her readings with fascination. The defenders appear to be a silicon-based life form with bioluminescent properties, possibly telepathic, based on neural activity patterns. The aggressors are more insectoid, with exoskeletal features and a fascinating neural network that suggests hive mind capabilities. The comm officer, Lieutenant Wei, cleared his throat. Captain, we're receiving desperate distress signals from the defenders. They're calling themselves Celestines. They're begging for help. Chen watched as another section of the Celestine vessel erupted in silent flame. The ship was dying by inches. And the aggressors? She asked. They identify as the Arcosian Dominion. They're broadcasting victory declarations interspersed with demands for surrender. Their language contains references to resource acquisition and territorial expansion. Wei hesitated. They don't seem concerned with civilian casualties, Captain. The bridge fell silent as the implications settled. Chen straightened her uniform, a habit from her academy days, whenever a difficult decision loomed. Regulations say we should retreat and report, she said quietly. But there's something regulations don't account for. What's that, Captain? Jackson asked. That humans have never been particularly good at watching innocent people die. She turned to Wei. Open a channel to both fleets. Wide broadcast. All frequencies. Translate into whatever language protocols we can manage. Jackson stepped closer. Captain, this could jeopardize humanity's standing with whatever galactic authorities exist out here. Chen's smile was slight but determined. Or it could establish exactly what kind of species we are, Commander. She squared her shoulders and looked directly at the view screen. It's time humanity introduced itself properly. The communication system chimed, indicating an open channel. This is Captain Eliza Chen of the United Earth Space Command vessel Dauntless, she began, her voice calm and authoritative. We are an exploratory vessel representing the human species. We observe that you are engaged in military conflict and wish to understand the nature of this engagement before determining our course of action. On the Celestine vessel, Admiral Virkel stared in disbelief at the human captain's transmission. Among the Arcosian fleet, Commander Dex Thorne's compound eyes narrowed with irritation at this unexpected variable in his otherwise perfect conquest. Neither had encountered humans before. Neither understood yet how significantly this third player would change the equation. Commander Dex Thorne of the Arcosian battle fleet observed the tiny human vessel with compound eyes narrowed in contempt. His chitinous exoskeleton clicked softly as he shifted in his command pod, surrounded by neural interfaces that connected him directly to his fleet's hive mind tactical network. "This insignificant craft dares interrupt our glorious conquest," he hissed, mandibles clacking in irritation. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Krell, analyzed the preliminary scans of the human vessel. "The ship is small, Commander, approximately 1/5 the mass of our light destroyers. Their weapons appear to be primarily projectile-based with some energy capabilities. Nothing our shields cannot handle." Dex Thorne's telepathic link pulsed with the collective curiosity of his officers. The Arcosian Dominion had encountered 17 different spacefaring species during their expansion, but none matching these humans. Their audacity suggests either superior capabilities or profound ignorance, Dex Thorne mused. His exoskeleton clicked as he leaned forward. "Target their propulsion systems. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. Their technology may prove useful once we've subdued them." 5 Arcosian destroyers broke formation, their synchronized movements betraying their hive mind coordination. The black, angular ships moved with perfect precision, spreading out to surround the comparatively tiny Dauntless. On the human vessel, Lieutenant Ramirez monitored the approaching Arcosian ships with growing concern. "Captain, they're moving to encircle us. Attack formation, based on their previous tactics against the Celestines." Captain Chen's smile was razor-sharp as she watched them approach. "Predictable. They're used to overwhelming force and perfect coordination." She turned to her chief engineer. "Commander Patel, is the Edison field ready for field testing?" The engineer nodded, though her expression remained concerned. "The system is online, Captain, but I must emphasize it's never been tested in combat conditions. Laboratory simulations can only approximate." "Today we move beyond simulations," Chen interrupted. "Activate the Edison field and target their lead vessel. Low intensity to start." The Dauntless shimmered as its revolutionary gravity manipulation system came online. Developed in secret by Earth's most brilliant physicists, the Edison field could create localized distortions in spacetime. Technology that humanity had developed far earlier in their technological evolution than most species due to their unique understanding of relativistic physics. When the Arcosian energy weapons fired, their precisely calibrated beams curved impossibly around the human ship, twisting back toward their sources. The lead Arcosian destroyer's shields flared violently as its own weapons fire was redirected against it. "Impossible." Sub-Commander Krull chittered in alarm. "Their defensive system is manipulating the trajectory of our energy weapons." Confusion rippled through the hive mind network as the Arcosian ships attempted to recalibrate. 2 vessels collided in the chaos as their navigational systems struggled to compensate for the localized spatial distortions emanating from the Dauntless. "Increase field intensity to 40%, Chen ordered calmly. "Let's show them what humanity brings to the table." The Edison field expanded its radius, creating a gravitational lens that distorted not just weapon fire but sensor readings as well. The Arcosian coordination began to fracture as their hive mind received conflicting spatial data. "They're breaking formation," Ramirez reported, unable to keep the note of triumph from his voice. "Their synchronized attack pattern is deteriorating." The Celestines watched in stunned silence from their damaged cruiser. Admiral Virkal's luminescent patterns pulsed with astonishment as a ship 1/10 the size of an Arcosian destroyer threw the perfect enemy formation into chaos. "What manner of technology can bend space itself?" "Cell," Mora whispered in awe. Virkal had no answer. In thousands of years of Celestine science, they had theorized such capabilities but never achieved them. Yet these humans, newcomers to the galactic stage, wielded what the Celestines had only dreamed of. Commander Dex Thorne's rage coursed through the hive mind network as he witnessed 3 of his destroyers retreating from the engagement zone with significant damage. inflicted not by the human weapons, but by their own attacks twisted back upon them. "This changes nothing," he snarled to his officers. "We still outnumber both vessels. Recalibrate our approach. The conquest will proceed." But deep in the collective consciousness of the Arcosian fleet, a new sensation began to form, one the hive mind had rarely experienced before. Doubt. "Your technology defies our understanding," Admiral Vircal admitted, his holographic image flickering above the Dauntless's command table. The Celestine leader's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with a mixture of hope and wariness. Captain Chen gestured to her ship's schematics hovering between them. "We call it the Edison field. It creates microsingularities that redirect energy and distort spacetime." She deliberately omitted the system's limitations, that at full power, it could only operate for 20 minutes before requiring a cooldown cycle. Some advantages were best kept secret. The Celestine Admiral's crystalline features reflected the blue light of the hologram. "In 3 centuries of war with the Arcosians, we have never witnessed anything capable of disrupting their coordination so effectively." "Sometimes being the new player has its advantages," Chen replied. "They've never encountered human battle tactics before." In her earpiece, a priority communication from Earth Command demanded immediate withdrawal. The voice of Admiral Takahashi was clear and emphatic. "Captain Chen, you are in violation of Directive 7. The Dauntless is not authorized for first contact scenarios, let alone military intervention. Return to patrol route immediately." Chen muted the transmission with a subtle gesture. Her XO, Commander Jackson, leaned close, keeping his voice low. "Captain, we're violating direct orders. This could be considered an act of insubordination. Sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, especially when lives are at stake," Chen replied quietly. She studied the tactical display, showing the Arcosian forces regrouping at the edge of the system. The respite was temporary. They had only bought minutes, not hours. The ship's diplomatic officer, Lieutenant Commander Novik, approached with a data tablet. "Captain, I've been analyzing the communication patterns between the Celestine vessel and the Arcosian fleet. This conflict appears to be part of a larger territorial expansion by the Arcosians. The Celestines are defending not just their ship but their entire civilization." Chen nodded, her decision solidifying. She addressed Vircal directly. "Admiral, what are your people's strengths? Every species has unique capabilities." Vircal's luminescence dimmed slightly. "We are telepaths, Captain Chen. Our minds can connect across vast distances. It allows for instantaneous communication between our ships and coordination of our efforts. But the Arcosians," he hesitated, "their hive mind tactical network is superior for warfare. It allows them to function as a single organism in battle." Chen's eyes lit up. "Telepathy. That's perfect." She turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Wei, could we integrate the Celestine telepathic network with our combat systems?" Wei considered for a moment. "Theoretically, yes. We could create a hybrid communication system, faster than any technological solution. And if we combine that with unpredictable human battle tactics." Chen's smile grew. "The Arcosians rely on patterns and prediction. Their hive mind is both their greatest strength and potentially their greatest weakness." On the main view screen, the Arcosian fleet had completed its reorganization. Their ships now formed a new attack pattern, compensating for the Edison field's effects. Lieutenant Ramirez reported from Tactical. "Captain, the Arcosians are launching fighters. Approximately 30 small craft, moving in coordinated waves." Chen's eyes never left the alien admiral's face. "The Arcosians outnumber us both, but they've never encountered human battle tactics. Your telepathic abilities combined with our unconventional strategies might just be enough to turn this fight around." She extended her hand toward the hologram in a symbolic gesture. "Are you willing to try something unprecedented, Admiral?" Vircal's luminescent patterns brightened with determination. "My people face extinction, Captain Chen. Unprecedented is all we have left." In the background, Earth Command's messages continued to pile up, demanding the Dauntless's immediate withdrawal. Chen silenced the alert entirely. Lieutenant Ramirez, begin tactical integration with the Celestine cruiser. Commander Patel, prepare the Edison field for sequential bursts rather than continuous operation. Lieutenant Wei, establish a secure channel for telepathic communication protocols. She turned back to the view screen as her crew rushed to execute her orders. The Arcosian fighters were halfway to their position, moving with perfect synchronization. Let's introduce some chaos into their perfect order, Chen said softly. The Celestine battle cruiser Eternal Light executed a series of erratic maneuvers that would have been impossible before Captain Chen shared human combat algorithms. The elegant crystalline vessel now moved with unpredictable grace, confounding the approaching Arcosian fighters. Hard to port, then execute pattern Sierra 9. Chen's voice echoed through the neural telepathic link established between the two allied ships. The hybrid communication system merged human neural interface technology with Celestine telepathic abilities, creating a response time that outpaced conventional systems by orders of magnitude. Unpredictability is humanity's greatest weapon, Chen had explained during their rushed strategic briefing. Your enemies expect patterns because that's how their hive mind works. Every move they've made in 3 centuries of warfare is stored in their collective memory. But they've never fought humans. Now the Arcosian fleet struggled to adapt as the remaining Celestine ships abandoned their traditional formation doctrines. The discipline that had defined Celestine space combat for millennia gave way to the chaotic, adaptive tactics that humans had perfected during centuries of fighting one another. Lieutenant Ramirez coordinated from the Dauntless's tactical station, his neural implants allowing him to visualize the entire battlefield in 4 dimensions. Celestine cruiser, execute evasive pattern Delta when my mark reaches 3. Dauntless will provide cover fire and gravitational disruption. Admiral Vircal, aboard his vessel, experienced the strange sensation of human battle instincts flowing directly into his mind through the telepathic bridge. It was unlike anything in Celestine experience. Intuitive leaps that defied logical analysis, but somehow produced effective results. The humans think differently, he communicated to his bridge crew. They anticipate based on psychology rather than pure calculation. The Dauntless darted between larger vessels, its Edison field creating gravitational disturbances that disrupted the Arcosians' networked targeting systems. Smaller than the capital ships but faster and more maneuverable, the human vessel exploited gaps in formations that the Arcosians didn't recognize as vulnerabilities. On the Arcosian command ship, Commander Dex Thorne stared at his tactical displays with mounting frustration. The elegant mathematical precision of his attack formations dissolved into ineffectual chaos whenever they engaged the human Celestine alliance. How are they anticipating our moves? He demanded, his exoskeleton clicking rapidly in agitation. Our tactical algorithms have been refined across 17 conquest campaigns. His tactical officer's mandibles twitched nervously. The defending vessels are no longer adhering to any known Celestine battle doctrine, Commander. Their movements follow no discernible pattern. Our predictive systems cannot establish targeting solutions. And the human vessel, Dex Thorne hissed. It continues to generate spatial distortions that confound our sensors. Hit rates have dropped below 30%. Alarms blared across the command deck as 3 more Arcosian fighters were destroyed, not by enemy weapons, but by collision with friendly vessels as the precisely coordinated formations broke down. In the heart of the Dauntless, Commander Patel monitored the Edison field generators with growing concern. Captain, we're approaching critical thermal limits. The system needs a cooldown cycle within the next 10 minutes. Chen acknowledged with a terse nod. Understood. Prepare to shift to Phase 2. She opened the neural telepathic channel to Admiral Vircal. Admiral, the Edison field needs to recharge soon. We'll need to rely on conventional defenses and your telepathic coordination for approximately 15 minutes. Vircal's response came instantly through the link. My gunners have already adapted several of your targeting algorithms. We stand ready, Captain. Chen smiled grimly as she watched another wave of Arcojan vessels break formation under the combined pressure of unpredictable maneuvers and gravitational disruption. The battle was far from won, but for the first time since the conflict began, the Celestines were not merely surviving. They were fighting back. Lieutenant Wei called out from communications, "Captain, we're detecting a surge in encrypted transmissions from the Arcosian command vessel. They appear to be receiving new orders from their high command." Chen's eyes narrowed. They're adapting. Time to introduce the next variable. She activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, prepare for Operation Hornet's Nest." Commander Dex Thorne's compound eyes reflected the holographic display of his scattered fleet. Operation Hornet's Nest, the human tactic of sending microdrones into the Arcosian ship's external sensor arrays, had thrown their hive mind network into disarray. The elegant decision trees that had guided Arcosian conquest for centuries were now cluttered with corrupted data and false readings. "We have lost tactical superiority in this engagement," his strategic officer admitted, mandibles clicking in shame. Dex Thorne's exoskeleton bristled with fury. For the first time in his distinguished career, he faced the possibility of defeat. The human vessel was damaged, the Celestine cruiser operating at minimal capacity, yet somehow this alliance had negated the overwhelming numerical advantage of his fleet. "We will end this with one decisive strike," he announced, his voice resonating through the hive mind link. "Gather all remaining vessels. Form the Spear of Conquest." His officers clicked in nervous agreement. The Spear of Conquest formation was reserved for overwhelming planetary defenses, concentrating the fleet's firepower into a single devastating assault. Their perfect coordination, once their greatest strength, had been systematically dismantled by the human Celestine alliance, but raw firepower might still prevail. "Target: the Celestine homeworld," Dex Thorne commanded. "If we cannot defeat them conventionally, we will force their surrender by threatening their civilian population." Aboard the Dauntless, Lieutenant Wei's expression darkened as she interpreted the sudden shift in Arcosian communications. "Captain, they're consolidating their forces. Long-range sensors show their trajectory will take them directly to Celestis Prime." Captain Chen studied the Arcosian formation with narrowed eyes. The Edison field was back online after its cooldown cycle, but the Dauntless had taken damage during the vulnerable period. Shield capacity was down to 40%, and 2 of their port weapons arrays were offline. "They're concentrating their forces. Classic desperation move," she observed. On the holographic display, Admiral Virkal's image flickered with evident distress. "They intend to attack our homeworld." The Celestine leader's telepathic voice was solemn through the neural link. "Celestis Prime's orbital defenses are already compromised. If the Arcosian fleet reaches firing range, billions will die." Chen's fingers flew across her tactical display, calculating trajectories and interception points. Their current position put them at a disadvantage. They couldn't intercept the Arcosian fleet before it reached Celestine space. "We need to cut them off," she murmured, then froze as a dangerous idea formed. "What if we don't chase them? What if we get there first?" Commander Jackson stepped closer. "Captain, the only way to beat them to Celestis Prime would be a horizon maneuver," Chen finished, a determined glint in her eyes. The bridge fell silent. The horizon maneuver required a faster-than-light jump inside a gravity well, something every spacefaring species considered suicidal. FTL engines were designed to operate in deep space, away from the distorting effects of gravitational fields. Jumping within a star system's gravity well risked catastrophic drive failure, spatial distortion, or worse. "The calculations would need to be perfect," Commander Patel said, breaking the silence. "1 decimal point off, and we could materialize inside a planetary body or create a localized singularity." Chen nodded. "We'll use the Celestine telepathic network to enhance our navigational computations. Their spatial awareness is more intuitive than our mathematical models. Even with their help, the risk is extreme," Ramirez cautioned. "And what's the risk of doing nothing?" Chen countered, gesturing to the tactical display, showing the Arcosian fleet's trajectory toward billions of civilians. She opened the neural telepathic link to Admiral Virchow. "Admiral, I'm proposing something that might sound impossible. We're going to execute an FTL jump inside the system's gravity well, positioning ourselves between your homeworld and the Arcosian fleet." Virchow's luminescent patterns flickered with alarm. "Captain Chen, such a maneuver is theoretically impossible. The gravitational equations, impossible for conventional drives," Chen interrupted. "But the Edison field can temporarily stabilize spacetime around our vessel during the jump. We'll need your telepaths to help our navigational systems compensate for the gravitational fluctuations." She turned to her engineering officer. "Commander Patel, divert all power to the FTL drive and structural integrity fields." As her crew rushed to prepare for the desperate maneuver, Chen smiled grimly at the approaching Arcosian formation on the view screen. "Let's show these aliens why humans have a reputation for crazy ideas that actually work." Horizon maneuver calculations complete, Lieutenant Ramirez announced, his voice tight with tension. Celestine telepathic corrections integrated into the navigation matrix. Captain Chen surveyed her bridge crew. Every face showed the strain of the past hours, but determination burned brighter than fear in their eyes. This was why she'd chosen each of them for humanity's first deep space exploratory mission, not just for their technical skills, but for their courage when facing the unknown. "All hands, secure for FTL jump," she ordered. "Commander Patel, status of the Edison field." "Field generators at maximum output," the engineer reported from her station. "Spatial distortion envelope established around the hull. It should provide sufficient stability during the jump, but I can't guarantee structural integrity beyond 30 seconds once we emerge." Chen nodded. 30 seconds is all we need." She activated the neural telepathic link. "Admiral Virchow, we're proceeding with the jump. Your telepath's spatial awareness data is integrated with our navigation systems." The Celestine Admiral's voice resonated in her mind. "My people stand ready, Captain. What you attempt defies all known physics, but we trust your judgment." Chen took a deep breath. "Initiate horizon maneuver on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute." The Dauntless vanished in a flash of light, the fabric of spacetime bending impossibly around it as the ship accelerated beyond light speed, while still within the gravitational influence of the star system. The laws of physics screamed in protest as the Edison field created a bubble of altered spacetime around the vessel, just barely containing the catastrophic forces trying to tear the ship apart. For the crew, time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. Each felt the nauseating sensation of existing in multiple places at once as the universe briefly forgot how to maintain continuity around them. Then, with a violent shudder that threatened to tear the ship's hull plates apart, the Dauntless emerged from FTL, directly in the path between the Arcosian fleet and Celestis Prime. The crystalline planet with its floating cities gleamed in the viewport, its beauty a stark reminder of what was at stake. "Status report," Chen called out as warning alarms blared across the bridge. "Structural integrity at 62% and falling," Commander Patel reported, her hands flying across her console. "Edison field generators overloading. We have 20 seconds at most." "Make them count," Chen ordered. "Expand the field to maximum radius." The ship's Edison field expanded to its maximum radius as it initiated a controlled FTL implosion, a cascading failure of the faster-than-light drive, directed outward rather than inward. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the human vessel as the laws of physics were temporarily rewritten in a sphere 5 kilometers in diameter. Arcosian ships, caught in the artificial gravity well, were yanked in multiple directions simultaneously. Their perfect formation shattered as localized spacetime distortions tore at their hulls. Commander Dex Thorne watched in horror as a third of his remaining fleet collided or tore themselves apart trying to escape the spatial distortion. "Impossible," he chittered as his tactical display dissolved into chaos. "No species possesses such technology. These humans are manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe itself. The shockwave of distorted space expanded outward, catching more Arcosian vessels in its wake. Ships designed to operate in normal spacetime found their navigation systems useless, their weapons unable to target, their very hulls subjected to gravitational stresses they were never designed to withstand. Fall back, Dex Thorne ordered, abandoning his pride along with his mission. All vessels, emergency withdrawal. Retreat to safe distance for hyperspace jump. The Arcosian retreat was chaotic and disorganized, a sight unprecedented in their military history. A species that had conquered 17 worlds without a single defeat was now fleeing in disarray from a single human vessel. The Dauntless emerged from the maneuver with significant damage, its hull scorched and systems failing. Emergency force fields contained multiple hull breaches as damage control teams fought to maintain life support. On the bridge, Captain Chen pulled herself up from the deck where the violent maneuver had thrown her. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, but her eyes shone with fierce triumph as she watched the Arcosian fleet scatter. "Status of the Celestine homeworld?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "Untouched, Captain," Lieutenant Wei confirmed. The Arcosians never got within weapons range. As emergency crews fought to stabilize the ship, Captain Chen opened a channel to the Celestine Admiral. Her voice was rough but triumphant as she surveyed the remnants of the once mighty Arcosian fleet now fleeing in disarray. "Admiral Vircal, I believe we've just changed the course of your war." 6 months later, Captain Eliza Chen stood before the Galactic Council chambers, her dress uniform adorned with both human medals and a crystalline honor star of the Celestine Federation. The circular chamber housed representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations, many of whom were seeing a human for the first time. The damage to the Dauntless had been extensive. After the battle, the ship had limped to Celestis Prime, where Celestine engineers, fascinated by human technology, had helped repair the vessel. During those months, Chen and her crew had become unofficial ambassadors for humanity, their actions at the Battle of Celestis Prime reverberating across the sector. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Chen began, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. "I stand before you not as a conqueror or as a warrior, but as an explorer who found herself in extraordinary circumstances." The central holographic display activated, showing footage of the battle. The desperate last stand of the Celestines, the arrival of the Dauntless, and the impossible physics of the Horizon maneuver that had scattered the Arcosian fleet. "Humanity doesn't seek dominance," she continued, meeting the eyes of various alien representatives. "We seek connection. Yes, our methods may seem unpredictable, even reckless, but we've survived our own violent history by learning to stand against impossible odds." A murmur rippled through the assembly. For most species, technological advancement had followed predictable patterns: weapons development after achieving spaceflight, then expansion, then either peaceful cooperation or conquest. Humans had developed faster than light travel, remarkably early in their technological evolution, and their understanding of spatial manipulation was unprecedented for a species so new to the galactic stage. The chamber hushed as Admiral Vircal joined her at the podium, his crystalline form glittering under the chamber lights. 6 months ago, my civilization faced extinction. The Arcosian Dominion had systematically dismantled our defenses over 3 years of warfare. In our darkest hour, when surrender seemed inevitable, a single human vessel changed everything. Holographic displays showed the current state of the conflict. The Arcosian expansion had halted completely. Their fleet, once thought invincible, had withdrawn to their core systems to rebuild and reassess after their first-ever defeat. "The Celestines propose a formal alliance with Earth," Vircal announced. "The human capacity for innovation combined with our telepathic abilities has created technologies neither could develop alone." The display shifted to show the peaceful applications of the Edison field technology, now being adapted for medical purposes, allowing Celestine healers to manipulate biological systems at the quantum level. Other displays showed new propulsion systems, energy production facilities, and enhanced communication networks born from the human-Celestine collaboration. The Arcosian representative shifted uncomfortably as the council members turned their attention to him. The once aggressive species had sent a diplomatic envoy, rather than risk further confrontation with the unpredictable humans. In light of these developments, the council elder announced, "We will proceed to a vote on lifting Earth's quarantine status and recognizing humanity as a full member of the galactic community." The vote was unanimous. Earth's quarantine status was lifted, with the Celestine Human Treaty ratified to thunderous applause. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but by standing against aggression and protecting a civilization they had only just met. As they left the chamber, Admiral Virakel turned to Chen. "You know what fascinates me most about humans, Captain. Not your technology or even your tactics, but your instinct to protect strangers simply because it's right." Chen smiled, watching as her crew mingled with representatives from across the galaxy. Lieutenant Ramirez was deep in conversation with a group of Celestine engineers, while Commander Paddle demonstrated the principles of the Edison field to fascinated scientists from 3 different worlds. "That's the thing about humans, Admiral," Chen replied. "We might be unpredictable, but when someone needs help, you can always count on us showing up, usually at the last possible moment." Virakel's luminescence brightened in what Chen had come to recognize as amusement, a terrifying and comforting thought, depending on which side of the battle one stands. As they looked out through the council chamber's vast windows at the stars beyond, Chen felt a sense of purpose stronger than any she'd known before. Humanity had taken its first real steps into the galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as defenders and innovators, bringing their unique perspective to a universe that had grown too comfortable with predictable outcomes. The fight had indeed been finished, until a human warship appeared and shifted not just the outcome of a battle, but the future of galactic civilization itself.